Hi, welcome to Stat Sisters. My name is Carrie, and I talk each week with my sister Erin about all things nursing, with the occasional Harry Potter thrown in. We talk about the nursing topics that you care about. We also chat about nurses in the news, and most importantly, answer your questions. Hey, good morning, Erin.
Good morning, Carrie.
Hey, so what's up today?
Um, let's see. We did some shopping this morning. We hit some thrift stores and got some amazing deals. And then we've got basketball practice for one of the littles this afternoon.
Oh, very
And
nice.
after that, we're watching the Cubs game tonight as a family. And that's about it. What about you?
Well, we got up and we all took showers, so score.
Nice. That is a total mom win.
Yes. And then we were out the door and waiting for the store to open at 9 to go
Wow.
grocery shopping. So we did that and then we came home and I put that away. And I made a delicious, nutritious lunch. And I had someone actually come over and we
Nice.
and we ate lunch together while
Aw,
the kids played.
look at you,
And
little
now we're doing
social
this.
mommy.
So we did say good morning, but it is afternoon now.
This is true. So good day.
Good
Good,
day.
good
It's
day.
whatever time of day that you want it to be, listeners.
There
Whatever
you
time
go.
of day.
Here in make believe land.
Yes. Okay. So that sounds great. Who's playing basketball today?
Not basketball, it's baseball, dear. It's the
Oh,
Cubs. Well,
baseball.
there might be basketball going on, but it's game three for the Cubs. And we're really hoping they won the first and they lost the second. So,
No, I mean for one of the kids.
oh, my bad. See, I'm thinking baseball. Olivia, she's got practice today and then another game tomorrow. So,
Oh, nice. Nice, nice.
yep.
Okay. Well, you ready to talk about some nursing stuff?
Let's do it. I'm so ready.
I am so ready to. I'm really excited.
I like these topics, actually. I think it's going to be a really good one.
Every episode is going to be great.
Well, yes, but I'm especially enthused.
Well, I'm excited about this first one because, as you know, I am a super social media person. I love it.
Me
And
too.
and if y'all out there that are listening that don't know, we are on Twitter at Stat Sisters, and also you can go on SoundCloud and comment and make suggestions of future topics, or if you have questions. So reach out to us on social media. We're on Facebook. We're everywhere. Our
Please
website is
find us.
statsisters.com.
Definitely.
So, but we're going to talk about social media related in the nursing world because it is a taboo subject,
Very much.
and yeah, you can get in some really big trouble with social media. So let's just start out with like, what's the social media climate at your hospital?
My hospital is very, we actually have like a social media policy that is part of the employee handbook now because it's, such a, I don't want to say rampant, but it's such a common thing, in this day and age. There's so many different platforms out there. And so it's part of our employee handbook that we all have to sign, and that essentially we're not supposed to be on it at work, and when we're on the clock, and then also any posting that we're putting on social media, we need to be making sure that there's no work related content on there. So, for instance, selfies at the desk with your buddies, that you don't have a chart open in the background or something like that. And that as well, that of course, what we say on social media, even unrelated to our employer, still reflects on us in the community because people know, we work for hospital XYZ or, this unit. And so even if it's completely unrelated, we're still, kind of examples, I guess, of our hospital. And so there's been quite a few examples of individuals that I've worked with who've gotten reprimanded and had, or even I've heard of others, none that I knew like closely related, but who actually were let go or terminated because of improper social media use at our hospital. So they're pretty strict here and up here in Boise, Idaho. So they're kind of not a fan. Although I will say we do have like Facebook pages for our individual units. They're all, somebody privately did them. It's not sponsored by the hospital, but we use that a lot of times to announce stuff or, shift coverages and things like that. So, what about you?
Oh, yeah. That I'm surprised for how strict your hospital is that they haven't cracked down on that. That's
Yeah,
pretty
and
cool.
they're totally okay with that because it's well, it's a private page first of all, so it's or a group, I guess I would say. It's a private group, so it can only be, employees who are on the group, and we still can't talk about patient related care. But we can say, like, hey, we've got a potluck this Wednesday night, or we're really short Tuesday day shift. We need maybe another nurse. Can somebody pick that up? So we're okay with, and our director's in that group as well, and she's completely okay with it. We actually had another page. Our hospital did a fitness challenge last March, and each individual unit competed against the other units, and that's actually how we started having that Facebook page. Is it was actually our fitness page, and then we rolled it into another one once that challenge was over because we really liked being able to easily communicate, and of course most people were on Facebook. So fortunately, as long as we
Yeah.
stay clear of patient stuff, then we're okay with that.
Yeah, I think that's great. And people blah, 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 blah. Gonna cut all that out.
Good idea.
But Facebook seems like it's multi-generational. Like, everybody's on there.
Right, right. I mean, there's of course a few individuals who aren't, and we text, for shift coverage and things like that. But Facebook is so easy to just reach out and touch so many people all at once. And like I said, we have, everybody from our director and our CNAs and, our lactation and everybody in between. And so it's kind of of course, everybody might manage their individual Facebook profile a little differently, but, it's really reaches out to the masses. So,
Well, my hospital I feel is very similar. Of course, we are very protective of HIPAA
right.
and patient. There, it's there's always a gray zone because, especially like when you work in a community hospital, I work in an urban hospital, so I don't know patients very often from outside of work, and so that it makes it kind of easier because the lines are like drawn pretty solid. But when I worked in community hospitals in the past, it's really hard when you run into people that you know at the hospital or patients, former patients in the community, and they feel like they know you because you took care of them, but you have to be very careful not to like accept their friendship. I mean, not friendship, their friend request, everything,
Right.
because you can get fired.
Yeah,
It's not okay.
absolutely. I
Like
know
we had
there's
somebody get in trouble for like they were with their friend when she gave birth, and then her friend had put something on Facebook and like tagged her, and she got in trouble. Even though she didn't take the picture, it wasn't her Facebook account, but she had tagged her at work holding the baby. And it was on Facebook, and so it like showed up and people could see, and she got in trouble.
See, and I disagree with that staunchly because, as you said, and I've seen those examples before, and on my end, there hasn't been reprimand, and so it might be, each director, I'm sure, is also their sensitivity is probably a little different. But in that case, it wasn't the employee or the woman who was on shift. It wasn't her posting those pictures or even taking those pictures. I feel it's no different than any other random unknown patient that we have. I've worked in pediatrics and mother baby, and so we get quite a few requests. Oh, can I take a picture with you with my child? Can I take a picture with you and the baby? I want to take a picture of you giving the baby their first bath. And if I didn't know this individual, because I'm probably all over people's Facebook accounts and I don't even know it.
Oh right. I know before Facebook was even really popular, I know I've been in like hundreds of baby books.
Oh yeah,
I'm just the random nurse that, was there during labor,
exactly.
and I'm cool with it. It's what it's
Right.
what
So
it is.
I don't see the difference is I guess my point between a stranger posting it and an actual family friend posting something and tagging you because they really do legitimately know you. It's their information. HIPAA is to protect their privacy and they're the ones consenting to post it. So I really disagree with that individual getting written up or in trouble for that. We had a similar instance. We have a good friend that my husband and I, because we both work at the hospital, we had both worked with for years, and she came in for her cesarean, and unbeknownst to my husband, he was scrubbed in on her case, and nobody realized this until it was partway through the case, and she saw him over the drape and was like, "Oh my goodness, is that you?" And so they started having this major conversation, and she thought it was fabulous. And she later, because of course they had taken birth pictures and everything in the OR, and she later posted this phenomenal birth picture, this phenomenal cesarean picture, and my husband was in it, and she tagged him and, said, "Oh, I was so excited to see him." And we were both like, "Oh goodness, I hope we don't get in trouble," even though Ryan had done nothing wrong. And it was our friend who had made this decision, and she was also an employee of the hospital. And fortunately, everything was fine because, it was her baby, and it was her OR experience. But yeah, I mean, you just never know.
I know you don't. You don't know what's gonna like blatant things. Obviously, like people that take pictures of like body parts or whatever, like crazy. Like yes, duh.
Right. Or check
But
out
you
this
never.
crazy amputation. I know a lot of ER nurses are probably tempted to be like, "Oh my gosh, check this out."
I know, really. I
Can't do
know.
that. Can't do that,
No,
guys.
you can't do that. But last year, or actually no, it was earlier this year. I actually had a meeting with some people that work with my hospital, and they were talking about how they want us to do more social media, especially as leaders. They want us to be on Twitter, and they told us the hashtag they wanted us to use. And so, like, I feel like my hospital, at least, they're embracing social media because really, like, hospitals are way behind, like, on the social media game.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely. And I think it's
my
because they're
what
so afraid of violations.
yeah, they're afraid of it, and so they've been left in the dust. And like my website, for a while, I'm sure it's not anymore because now they've embraced it, but it was getting a better reach than some of the stuff they were posting on like a huge hospital. Like it was getting more views, and that's sad.
Oh
Like,
yeah, because they should have a way larger platform than little old
yes,
you or me,
for
And I agree.
sure.
I hope that they can come to a point that they recognize, yes, we still can't make HIPAA violations, and yes, we can't discuss blatant patient information, but there is nothing wrong with, asking for a shift trade, and there's nothing wrong for promoting your hospital or promoting your unit or promoting, the 5K that we're throwing for the benefit for the children's hospital or something like that. And by not doing so, by abstaining from using social media, like you said, they're losing a huge audience and that buy-in from the community. I agree. I think that's awesome. I remember when you told me about that about your hospital, and I was equal parts surprised and kind of excited. I'm like, that's really cool. So
Right? Because I tell them, like, I still don't put on Facebook where I work, but I mean, people, if they take 3 minutes, they can find out
oh
where I
yeah,
work.
right,
But,
absolutely.
but I don't publicize it on Facebook because I don't want people tagging me, and I don't want it to be super easy for patients because they used to, like, try to ask me for friend requests and stuff, and I always, like, block them. So they told me they wanted me to put where I worked on my social media, and I was like, what? Are you sure? Like, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm like, everyone's always told me forever not to do that. And they're like, no, we want you to put that you're a nursing manager, that you work here, and we want you to talk about work and take pictures at work. Not obviously a patient charts like you were saying, but
Right.
like out there with the in the public spaces, go ahead and do it. And I was like, oh, and so I love it because now I feel like free that I can do it, and it's great. And
Right.
I'm getting more of my nursing staff involved in social media,
I'm
and I
sure they're
have
nervous though because of the mentality has been for so long that it was a punitive thing. So
our takeaway is proceed with caution, but do it. And that's my takeaway anyway from social media.
I completely agree. I can't say your employers are going to agree, little people, but so you should certainly know what your employee handbook says and what your standards you are being held to. But I advocate that I think there is definitely a place for it in the workplace, and that's not even touching on the subject of actually like using social media at work. We didn't even really talk about that very much, but I think that's more of like a recreational free time topic rather than the use of social media to promote work. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we definitely promote the use of social media when it comes to subscribing and listening to this podcast. So
Oh,
do it.
hands down, support away, fellow listeners. All
All
right.
right.
Is it
So
time for a segue?
Yes.
I think we should segue.
Very
You
good
know,
segue.
you know what social media reminds me of? It reminds me of some of the situations we find ourselves in at work. Keep going with it, Carrie.
Okay, I will take that ball and run with it. So, I wanted to talk today a little bit about violent threats to nurses. I don't know, we've never talked about this, I don't think,
I
about
don't like even personally. I don't know that we really have, which is crazy considering both of our history. In where we've worked in nursing so far. So
yeah, like, okay, so I've had some very sketchy, scary situations, but I don't know if you've ever had any. I've never asked you. I'm like really surprised that we've never talked about this. But
I know.
basically, violence against nurses and healthcare workers is a really big deal. And for a long time, we just have dealt with it and try to stay as safe as possible, but we never want to hurt the patients, and it's always felt wrong, and sometimes it's against policy even to try to press charges against patients, or
Or
there's
even
just not
defend
been a
yourself against patients.
right, there's like not a culture of safety around nurses when it comes to patient violence. And so it's becoming a more talked about topic, and it's getting some more it's like in the news more, and there's actually like some places where you can press charges, which I've never felt like I needed to, but definitely just there are situations where people are straight out abusive.
Absolutely. I think it's definitely getting more national exposure. I don't know if I'm just seeing it pop up more because it's on my personal radar or because I'm a nurse. So, of course, through my social media, things are, filtering through to me. But I'm definitely seeing it in the news more and in headlines and just as on discussion boards. And Idaho recently, and actually I believe it was 2015, passed a law that it is now a felony offense to assault healthcare workers. And previously, we had no legal leg to stand on. I don't know, I'm not saying that we couldn't press charges, but it certainly was more looked upon as like, hey, this is just part of your job. And you just need to deal with it. These people are sick, or these people are, belligerent, or whatever it was. They're under, the influence of medications or alcohol, and that's just part of your job, and you signed up for it. But now it is actually a felony offense. And so, as a nurse, I was really excited, and I was really proud to see that happen, because I do have quite a few years working with not, well, I worked with the elderly population, and there's certainly times where you kind of have to watch yourself there, but I don't even feel that so much as a violent threat as with the adult population. When I worked with the adult population, we of course are seeing an increase in adult mental health illness in the United States. And that prevalence is really apparent in the hospital world. And we see whether the people are there, with drug overdose or alcohol withdrawal, and people are detoxing, or maybe they're there for something completely unrelated, but they have those influences in their life, and it affects them, and it affects how they cope or don't cope, and they deal with situations. Hospitals are a really stressful time. People are sick, family members are under stress, and so I've had violent threats come from both patients and patients' families. And I've been assaulted, I've been hit and struck by patients before, and even in just my short nursing career, in less than 10 years, I've seen kind of a paradigm shift where we're starting to go from, hey, suck it up, you just kind of rodeo that patient and you got to deal with it, to, you have rights, and we don't expect you to go out there and get injured. We don't expect you to put yourself in the line of fire. We expect you to protect the patients and yourself. And so it's kind of wonderful to see that change.
I agree. I've been punched. Actually, I wrote an article about this a couple years ago, because like I've been punched, kicked, scratched, any squeezed, pulled hair. That's
Hmm.
why nurses don't usually have their hair down besides sanitation. So we're afraid it's going to get pulled.
Right?
Um, I've been spit on, like just anything possible, and I don't even like if I got an injury, I'm never upset with people that are truly like incapacitated, like they just don't really know. It's like
Right.
they're not responsible for their
Absolutely.
actions.
Right.
But there are so many people that they're just cranky, and I understand that they're having the worst day of their life, but there's no excuse to hurt me because you're having a really bad day. And definitely I've been threatened by family members before, and it is scary, especially working in with children and babies. There is a
Absolutely.
lot of social dynamics, and nurses, like, we're scared. Honestly, we are scared that someone's going to come in and shoot us. It happens. And especially working with like like child protective services, when you have to like remove a child from the home, or someone comes in to have a baby and they're found to have been doing drugs and they're positive for like methamphetamines and all this different stuff. We don't want to be there the day that they come to take the baby away, because the significant other or even the patient can just become very hostile and they make threats, and it does not feel safe. And when I worked in the community, especially, like, it is really easy to have them follow you to your car or find out where you live. It's not a big place. Like, I feel more anonymous in Houston. They're not going to probably stalk me in the parking garage. It's like, several buildings away.
Right. Right.
I
No,
mean,
but
but they could.
absolutely. Yeah,
And
I mean, it's certainly a possibility, and it is. It's something that it's a very real fear, and it can be quite terrifying. You deal with some very unstable individuals sometimes.
I know I've whenever there's a shooting, especially a medical shooting, I'm always like reminded of my own personal decree. I'm not going to be a hero. If I ever see anybody with a gun, I am out of there. And that's so chicken, but it scares me. It scares me more than it really probably should, but it does. I'm really glad in the medical center in Houston, like all the hospitals have guards. Like we employ a ton of security officers. They're armed, and most of the units where I work, I think all the units except for like clinics are locked down, and so it's very tight security. But it makes me feel safer.
Well, that's, yeah, understandably. And since working on pediatrics and mother baby, our units are our lockdown units for patient safety as far as, abductions, and things like that. But otherwise, here, because I'm not in Houston, I'm not in this large city, Boise is not small, but it's certainly not a major metropolis. And we don't have, the metal detectors and the armed guards. We have security officers, but, they're not, like active duty policemen that, can carry weapons. And in fact, we have a weapon free campus, and we've had instances. There was one instance years ago, we had an elderly gentleman who came up to the floor, and asked at the front desk to speak to the case managers, and that's not an uncommon thing. And the unit clerk just, gave him some verbal directions to go find their office. And that gentleman went back there and proceeded to stand in the doorway and block the three case managers in that office and began to verbally assault and threaten them, and continue to escalate to the point that we had to call, what we call a code gray, which is an aggressive individual, in our hospital, with this person. But by the time people had even realized what was going on, he had already left and was exiting the elevator doors. And it was quite terrifying to all of us that we didn't even realize what was going on until it was almost over. And this was a gentleman whose wife had been a patient over a month prior. So it's something, and was really upset about the way things had ended up. So it's something that you don't always know. It's not always going to be immediate. There are those threats that happen on your shift with the patient at hand, but there's things that can happen latently, way down the line, and you don't know how an individual's mind works. And what was scary to us is not the lack of response, is that we didn't even, it was so fast that if that gentleman had been armed, there wouldn't have even been a response. There wouldn't have even been an alarm
Right.
raised, because it was that fast. And so that certainly has spurred some changes in the way we do things, the way individuals are shown onto the floor, or, we no longer just welcome people back like that. People are, go ahead and have a seat in the lobby, and we'll bring them out to meet you. And, and we have, over the last few years started doing a lot of mental health training for all of our employees, not just the medical staff at the hospital, but everybody from, our employee services and environmental employees and food services, everybody all up the food chain are doing mental health training, and how we respond to these code grays and how we respond to these individuals, if they are armed or if they're threatening. And we have full policies and things that we practice now, just like we do, our code blues and our other practices, that we can actually practice. And so people feel hopefully a little more comfortable and knowing what their rights are. To
That's
defend
great.
themselves. Yeah, it's been really nice, and it unfortunately took, this oh goodness gracious, Carrie, I blinked.
Incident.
Yeah, this incident and just other similar incidents, and just kind of years of that mentality being acceptable before people started saying, you know what, this isn't okay anymore.
Well, I'm glad it didn't take something worse.
Right, absolutely. I mean, I won't say that was the apex, but it was definitely one of the things for that specific unit to say, you know what, we need to take a look, because that unit, especially that adult, they get a lot of that population, so you just have to be careful.
You really do. So that was a kind of depressing topic, but still very serious. But I feel like that was a little downer.
I know it's important, and I feel pretty passionate about it. But yeah, it's a little, it's a little sad for any potential nursing students out there. Please don't, please don't rescind your application to nursing school based upon that. Nursing is good.
Yeah,
but I think it's
it
something
is.
real that needs to be discussed.
It does. We need to talk about it more because we don't talk about it, and
No.
it happens all the time. Well,
true.
let's switch gears and talk about something a little bit more fun.
Oh,
Well,
I like
fun
that.
for some people. I've never actually done this, so I'm going to let you stab this first. But dating at work. Well,
I was like, wait a minute.
I did.
Do you think I've done this?
I think so.
Well, okay, I guess so.
I guess I have dated at work, but not in a healthcare setting, and it's a huge difference, I think.
Absolutely. So dating at work, once again, there's usually lots of policies on this, typically against between nepotism, and it's just a big hot mess in general. But I guess I don't think about it as dating, but like I said earlier, my husband and I both work for the same hospital. We presently no longer work on the same campus, but for years we did. So I guess in a way I'm kind of dating at work.
Oh yeah, I thought that. So he didn't work there when you were dating. I thought he did.
I'm trying to remember. I don't think so. No, he did not. Now that I remember, he didn't get the job there until after we were married. He worked elsewhere in healthcare, but
Okay, got it.
but I still I date my husband. I just don't usually
Yes.
date him. When
Well,
I'm
let's change
working.
it to relationships,
Oh, there you
romantic
go.
relationships at work, because that applies.
There you go. There you go. Okay, so this is really all about me. No, just kidding. Noted.
Well, I have from the another perspective about how not to do it. So you tell me how to do it.
Let's do that. Let's go with your perspective first.
Well, I think that I think it's fine. You spend most of your time at work, and so of course, and you're going to meet people that you're interested in while you're working, and they
Right, you have shared
this-
interests, obviously.
Yes, and they understand, like if you're a physician and you are around physicians or nurses or anybody, and they already understand your lifestyle, so they understand that you have to be on call. So there's kind of like this commonality that's more comfortable. That being said, it makes it very uncomfortable for everybody else. So I think your job, when you're dating somebody, especially, I think it's a little different when you're married, because it's not as like drama filled. But when you're dating, especially in the beginning, and it's kind of unstable and it's new, like keep it to yourself. Like,
Absolutely. Like, it might be
we-
fabulous for you, but we don't want to see it.
No, I think that it's best. Like you don't have to keep it secret, but just make it like so boring that people don't care.
Right,
Because
like Yawn City.
yes, because when you start pulling in other people into your romantic drama, like it makes everything worse at work. And
Right.
And I would just I'm going to just insinuate my own personal values into this conversation, especially if you're cheating on your spouse. Leave me the heck out of it. I don't want to know. I don't want to be involved in any way. And I don't want to know because then I'm going to judge you.
Oh, good golly, that's awful. I, I really hope you don't have a personal experience. I mean, not you personally. I mean, like
Oh no.
somebody.
I mean, several times I have been party to that. Like, you know, so and so's cheating on their spouse with someone at work, and it is so awkward. And I'm just, please, I wish I didn't know. Because
Well,
then I
that's
just
just
want to think of you as a professional and you're doing a professional job. And I don't want to think about any of that other stuff. And I don't want to think about this other person and you are doing stuff.
oh, good heavens, that's just awful. Either way, I figure, obviously, if you hook up with somebody and you date and things end up going well, it's like, wonderful and fabulous and great. But the fallout when it doesn't, oh my good heavens, it's so incredibly awkward. And I don't care if it's, nurse or nurse physician or cafeteria worker and, the transport person. I don't care what it is. It's awkward and it spreads like poison. And so I
It
think
does.
when it's a good thing, I think it's great. I think it's cute. I remember when I was in nursing school, I was doing my ER rotations, and there was a female nurse in the ER and a male paramedic who had just gotten married, and it was adorable. He'd come in, when they'd bring a patient, and if he had a break, they'd do lunch together, or, he'd say goodbye to her if she wasn't busy when he had to go back out on a run, and it was just really cute, and it was very sweet, but they were professional, you could tell they were in love, but it, wasn't anything, there was no drama. It was just, it was happy, it was short, it was sweet, and then that was it, and it didn't, like, detract from either of their jobs, and so I thought that was, like, really the way to do it.
Yes, that is
you
the
know,
way to do it.
and then, because then it's uplifting, I guess, unless you're a really bitter single person. But I would think it's uplifting to be around that. And
No, I
so,
think that's a great point though, Erin. Like if it's bothering people, and maybe they are like they don't want to see it because they're unhappy or whatever reason, I would try to respect that. Like I think
right,
it's always okay to just be professional and keep that relationship completely like out of the work like as much as possible. Like, if you notice that people are not appreciating it, I think
right,
that's okay.
right, right. Yeah, my husband and I, like, we will hold hands. For instance, but not while if I'm working, then no. But if, because a lot of times he and my son will come join me for lunch. And so if I'm walking to the break room or I'm walking to the cafeteria or, outside to have lunch, then yes, I'll hold hands with him when I walk with him or walk him to the elevator, and I'll give him a quick kiss or hug, at the elevator. And I smooch all over my son, of course, which most people have no problems with that. But if I'm actually like on shift seeing patients or not going on my break yet, then if I'm wearing that badge or if he's working and we come to visit him, we try to keep it very professional, not sit there and making goo goo eyes, or you're not going to sit on your husband's lap at the nurse's station or something like
Oh,
that, because
no.
it's just, although it would be, it's not obscene and it's not anything that would be completely, nobody would look, second have a second glance if you were at a park or something, but when you're at work, and especially when you're wearing your badge and you're obviously on shift, that it's not really professional, because first of all, people may not know that's your husband. That could be extremely awkward. I know there's been times where I have maybe floated to a different floor, and on the campus my husband is actually at, and so he'll come to meet me for lunch, and he'll just be meeting at the desk. He'll just be standing there, and I'll come walking up, and he'll be like, "Hey, how's your shift going?" And he'll wink at me or something, and people were like, "Oh my heavens," like he's getting fresh with our nurse. And I was
Oh,
like,
that is funny.
no, 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 it's my husband. And then
Oh,
they're
you guys
usually
are so
fine.
adorable.
Well, I think we're adorable, but we try to be respectful of that because, like I said, what's totally okay in public, there's definitely a line of professionalism that's not exactly okay to to carry over into your workspace. So you have to be cognizant of that. And I think if you do that, then hopefully you're not offending anybody else, and you shouldn't be getting in trouble either. So, but if you're
Yeah,
a
I
hot
think so.
mess, keep it quiet, man. Nobody wants to
Yes.
know. I mean, really,
Yeah.
whether it's with somebody you're working with or not, I don't want to hear about your hot mess at home either. So
Good point.
it's kind
Good
of a
point.
blanket rule.
Yeah. I totally agree. When my husband, he does not visit me. Maybe a couple of times because he doesn't like hospitals.
Well,
But that's okay. Um, but when he calls me, it's so funny because he'll call the phone and I'll answer. Hi, this is Carrie. How can I help you? And he's like, Oh, you're at work.
right, right. This is Erin. Even though I
And
see my husband's number and I know who it is.
yep. And he's like, Oh, you can't talk. I'm like, Nope. But I will get back to you as soon as I can. Bye.
Smoochy, smoochy. It's always awkward to explain.
Yeah, he's a good sport about it.
I'm sure he gets it after all these years.
So, are we ready for a fake question from a fake person?
Yes, I love our fake questions. Let's do it.
Okay, today our question. Oh, and if you would like to submit a real question and you're a real person, you can go on to Twitter. We're at Stat Sisters, or you can go on SoundCloud and at SoundCloud and put a comment and comment a. We love comments. We want to hear your comments. And if you have any corrections, we don't mind. Just let us
No,
know.
bring it on.
And anyway, so comments or questions, SoundCloud. And you can also email us at statsisters@gmail.com. So our question today is, and this is a common thing that happens, unfortunately. I was just,
Absolutely. Can I read it?
okay.
Because I think I would do a really good fake
Oh,
impersonation.
oh yeah, go for it.
Okay, dear Carrie and Aaron, I hate my job, but it is the only hospital in my town. What can I do?
Oh, that's
How
a
was that?
question from next week.
Oh, dang it. I read the wrong one. Because I really liked that one.
But we can do that one. We can do that one.
Oh, no, this one's good too. I was just like dyslexic. This one's good too. Oh, yeah, no, I like this one. Let's go with this one.
Okay,
Because
start
I know
over.
the stance I'm going to take.
Okay.
Take
Okay,
two.
Erin, go ahead and read our fake question from a fake person.
All right, girls, Carrie and Aaron, I was just fired by my patient. What is wrong with me? Okay, for all of you
Oh.
out there who may not be, I know, right? Who are not nursing savvy or maybe know what fired means. No, your patients can't actually make you, well, they could make you lose your job, but they don't have the power to let you go immediately. Being fired by a patient is your patient saying, I don't want you as my nurse anymore. And they essentially just kind of kick you out. Good nutshell version.
Yeah,
So
and
that's
that happens.
it does. It happens. And I know my personal take on this, but Carrie, what's yours? I want to hear you first.
Well, I've only technically been fired once, and I wasn't offended by it at all because they thought that there was a couple of different Carries that worked there, and they thought that I was the older, more experienced Carrie. And when they saw me come in the door and they realized that I was very young and not the one that they wanted, they were like, "Oh, we choose not to have you."
Oh, wow.
So that
So you kind of got fired by not being somebody.
Yeah, so I haven't actually been fired for anything I've done, but I have been around tons of people that have gotten fired, and it's from all kinds of different things. Like it could be because you're just not jiving your personality. It could be like one time, somebody reminded like the nurse looked a lot like someone's ex-wife,
Oh,
and
jeez.
and so they're like, "Oh no, you cannot be in this berth."
Oh,
I
my
mean,
goodness.
sometimes nurses are grouchy. I mean, we're gonna own our part of it. Sometimes a nurse is like being a grump, or maybe they're
True.
just like not the best nurse, and the patient's like, "I don't want you. Get your bad mojo out of here."
I want somebody else's mojo.
So I think it's okay to be fired. I think usually the patients that are firing you, honestly, you're better off, like because they're not happy. and either they're a grumpy person and they just like the power of firing people, because that's a thing, or they have legitimate concerns. You're better off having a different patient and not being stuck for 12 hours in that situation. So I think it's better for everybody. And I think that you should let it roll off your back and own the part that is yours to own. If you did something or didn't do something that you should have, own that and move on.
Absolutely. Amen, sister. So I'm going to preface this by saying, definitely if you've done something wrong and if there's something on your part, like Carrie said, then okay, then you need to look and examine, is there something in your nursing practice that you've made an error or that maybe you need to be changed and that you need to change and be a little more diligent. But if not, oh goodness gracious, sister, I've been fired way more than Miss Carrie there. I mean, it's not like a weekly occurrence here, but I have been fired multiple times from my patients, and typically it is because I could say clash of opinion, but that's just not true. It's just because the patient just doesn't like it. They don't like the practice. They don't like. How do I want to say this? Hang on. I'm trying to be.
They don't like your style of nursing, or
No, so it's not even that they don't like my style of nursing. They don't like a lot of times my safety practices. I'll be honest with you. The most of the times I have problems with patients because we're all going to have patients that sometimes we just really jive with, and you're just like,
yes.
oh my goodness, we are kismet, and it's just serendipitous, you know. And then there's the patients that you just like, I just don't know why I can't quite. I just don't feel like I bond with them. I'm not quite reaching them, and you just don't really know. So I don't believe that those relationships, it's just like you're not really friends with everybody. Some people are your friends and some people aren't. We're just not drawn to all individuals, and that's okay. I don't feel that those are the kinds of people who are firing you. In my experience, it's the people, they're a mess, they're a headache, and they have a lot of social things going on. I've had a lot of drug seekers. Once again, my personal experience in the adult health population, I've had a lot of manipulative people, and those are the ones who have fired me because I have stood my ground and not done maybe what another nurse had done, and not pushed the med that they wanted pushed or pushed it the way they wanted it pushed. When it came to like pain medication, for instance.
Oh
My
yeah,
practice
they
is the
have their
same.
preferences.
Yep, and my practice is the same across the board because my practice is a safe standard of practice, and I don't change it. And if I don't change it, I don't have to worry about being accused for favoritism. I don't have to worry about being accused for harming a patient. And so I don't care who you are. You can be Mary Queen of Scots, and I'm not going to do it any differently. And so a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, some people don't appreciate that, and some people want to be able to call the shots, and some people they want what they want. And I'm like, honey, this isn't Burger King. It's not your way right away. It is a hospital. And I'm sorry, but I'm the professional who's gone through years of training to make sure that you and I are both alive at the end of this shift. And so my experience and the times that I've gotten fired is like, honey, good riddance to bad rubbish, because whether it's a legitimate thing that you're just not jiving, and maybe that patient really does have legitimate concerns, like Carrie said, that's better for them in the long run and better for you, because nobody wants to feel awkward. And when you're feeling awkward, you're actually more prone to make mistakes. But in the instances that it really is just the patient, honey, don't beat yourself up over that, because that is nothing that you could have done save maybe something that you wouldn't have felt good about morally at the end of the day that would have made that patient happy. Your job, you're not there to be their best friend. You're there to keep them safe and to treat their medical needs. And if they're not going to allow you to do that to your standard of practice, don't sit there crying at the desk, honey. Don't lose sleep over this person, because it is not an accurate reflection of your abilities as a nurse.
Very well said.
At all.
It's not, and we definitely have to have a podcast about drug seeking patients, because
That's really a whole other topic.
It is a whole other topic, and it is hard on everybody involved, from the patient. I mean, that's hard for them. It's hard for the nurse. It's hard
absolutely.
for everybody.
Right.
And it's hard for the family members too. That's a hard one. But no, I think I totally agree with you.
Yeah, but I've gotten fired like, well, your instance was 30 seconds into your shift or so, and mine I think was my first or second interaction with a patient within like half an hour, and I was happy because I'm like, you know what, I don't want to deal with that. For if it's not a good fit for whatever reason, I don't want to deal with that for the next 12, 13 hours.
No, I
No
didn't
way.
want. I
Moving
did not
on.
mind at all. Like if they thought that. I mean, because I mean, until recently, like back then when I was in my 20s, I looked young. Now I'm
Yeah.
in my 30s. I don't look that young anymore. But um, they question. I've had people question like, how many deliveries have you been in? How many
Mhm.
C-sections have you been? Like, because I just look so young, and they did not want me. They didn't want me in there. I didn't want to be in there because everything I did would have been scrutinized,
Absolutely.
and that would
Absolutely.
have been a miserable shift for me. And
It
I
would have
wanted
been
them to be
unfair to
happy.
you. It would have detracted from the patient's experience. So,
Yeah, and that nurse, the nurse that they wanted, she's fabulous, and I don't blame them for wanting her. She wasn't there that day, so they just got an older nurse.
well, there you go. Which isn't always the best thing, but if they weren't comfortable, they weren't comfortable.
No,
So,
and older doesn't equal more experience, by the way,
no,
because a lot
that's
of
very
nurses
true.
go as a second career. One of the nursing students in my nursing school was 50, I think, when she graduated.
Right. Many, many nurses that I work who are 1 or 2 decades older than me have been a nurse, good golly, at least half as long as I have, or maybe, just 1 or 2 years. They're just starting out. So, yeah, no, older, buyer beware.
Yes,
Age does not always equal experience,
it
or maybe not the
doesn't.
experience you want. But no, I had one little gal. It was the first time she got fired, and she was just crying at the station. And this patient was a piece of work in this case, and was yelling and swearing at everybody. Um, and I was like, do not let this get you down. If you were a horrible nurse, you would know it by now. You would know it well before this point. This is not a reflection on you. This is a reflection on them. And just kind of hold your little head up and you get back to work and be the amazing rock star that you are. So I would give
Should
that same advice.
I think that's excellent advice. And I'm going to ask Erin, do you think we should tell the secret about nurses and patients?
What secret? I mean, yes.
Um, Nurses sometimes fire patients.
Oh, this is true.
Because some patients, I mean, even if there's the sweetest things, I mean, there's different acuity levels, and patients can be a lot of work, either emotionally, physically, psychologically. And so we definitely share the burden. And
Yep.
sometimes you're like, I'm done. I'm not doing
I,
this again.
I cannot have that one tomorrow. Please give me, or
No.
a whole other group. I've done that before. I'm not going to make specific requests. Just give me something totally different. I mean,
And so
and
we,
vice versa. We can request like, please give me room such and such back. They were just a peach, and I really loved them, and we really hit it off, or they requested me. So there's definitely the positive side of that. But oh yes,
yeah.
honey, yeah, nurses can fire patients as well. And there's some patients that even if they're great, like you said, they're just a lot of work, and they kind of just need to be. We need to spread that love around.
Yes, and there's a thing called continuity of care where you really try to keep the same nurse with a patient, especially those longer term patients. But sometimes even in those situations, you just have got to have a break.
Yeah, sometimes, and that's not necessarily what's best for the patient if you're forcing it. Again, if it's not a good mesh for whatever reason, you're risking bad outcomes. So just go with
Yeah.
it.
So let's talk about our sponsors.
Yes, let's do. All right, this podcast is brought to you by Burger King Nursing. You can have your patient care your way, right away. Unless I'm your nurse. Then it's my way.
All right. This podcast is brought to you by social media. Literally, you probably found us on Twitter or we begged you on Facebook to listen. So, yes, social media. It brings Stat Sisters to you.
Good job. Good job.
Okay.
Oh,
Are
ouch.
we ready to talk about nursing in the news?
Oh gosh, I almost forgot. But yes, let's talk about nursing in the news.
Okay. I need to click on this link because I forget this story. Oh, it
I
doesn't want
like
to
how
click.
you're the informed one. I'm big on that right now.
Oh, maybe. Oh, there it is. Okay. So, In July, there was a story going around the interwebs about a 93-year-old nurse who just had retired. And this is all simultaneously terrifying and endearing. I'm like, oh, that is so sweet. And also, oh my gosh, please, I don't want to be nursing when I'm 93.
Yes. And then I think, what did her patients think?
Yes, so this is really cute. She says that her name is Alice Graber,
Aw.
and she's very sweet. She still, even though she retired, she still serves at the nursing home that she lives at
Of course she
by
does.
feeding and bringing trays to residents. Like she's still doing it.
Aw. It's just part of who she is.
Yes,
Bless her
she was the
heart.
oldest nurse in South Dakota. I
That's
just think
just
it's
adorable.
precious.
That
She's
is
a bundle
so.
of energy.
Well, you'd have to be. Good heavens. Could you imagine? Oh my goodness, I'm dead at the end of my shift now, and I'm far from 93.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Could you imagine, though, all the things that she has seen and the way that medicine has changed in her nursing career, assuming she started, as most women of her era did, in her teens or maybe early 20s? That's just astounding.
Yeah, she graduated nursing school in December of 1944, but she did take an 11-year hiatus because I think for raising her kids,
Right.
and but she said she couldn't stay away from the profession forever. Her heart is nursing. That is so sweet.
Oh, good job, Nurse Alice.
So she reminded me when I worked at a nursing home as a CNA, and there was a 70-year-old CNA, and
Get out.
she was amazing. She like would help turn patients. Like there's people in the nursing home that were much younger than her
Oh, I'm
that
sure.
were residents. And it like blew my mind that she was very healthy. You couldn't tell she was 70, but she was 70 and she was still working as
Wow.
a nursing assistant. And I was like, oh, I wonder how much longer she worked because she didn't show any signs of stopping.
That is just amazing. I just can't even imagine.
No, I like burnt out after like 6 months. That was a hard job. We're gonna talk
They,
about that in a later podcast, but that was the hardest job I've ever had.
oh my goodness, so demanding, both physically and emotionally taxing. No, that is, oh, I just love that story. I remember hearing about that and I remember thinking, what? That is just crazy. I'm like, how do you keep your license current all those years? And what did she have to do? And I have all these little questions that come in my mind. And I think that's just phenomenal. But her mind, she must just be sharp as a tack, you know,
Oh yeah.
to be able to continue to do all of those um, just tasks that's required, And of course she's still serving. I mean, she probably just doesn't know anything else. If you made her just sit down, she'd go insane.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I used to think about. I can't remember her name because it was so long ago, but that CNA that was 70 years old, I'm like, I think if she retires, that she would just like die.
Yeah, they just, oh my goodness.
Because like that's what's keeping her going. It's just like not that a 70-year-old like they can't
No,
retire. I'm gonna
no,
be
but that's
retired.
obviously, obviously they have a passion
Yeah.
to be able to continue to do, because it's a very demanding field. It's a very physically taxing field. There's, I mean, injuries and not non violent patient related injuries in the workplace, and it just wears out our joints and
Yeah.
walking and being on our feet and
No,
wow.
she was in much better physical condition than I was.
Yeah.
It was really sad for me being because I mean, gosh, I was like I think 23.
Oh yeah.
I mean, come on. I was getting like huffy puffy going down those aisles, and she was 70, just pushing patients all around.
She's lapping you with the wheelchairs. Well, way to go. So hats off to those more seasoned healthcare individuals who are out there. I applaud you.
Yes.
As long as people are practicing safely, I am all about that. Honestly, I think that's great. It's like trick-or-treaters. I don't care how old you are. If you come to my door and you are dressed up in a costume, I will give you candy.
That was the weirdest analogy ever.
I think it was amazing. It's almost Halloween.
It is. I know, but it's not going to be Halloween when they listen to this.
Whatever.
Oh, well, it'll be just past Halloween. So
Yes,
anyway,
see, there you go.
so what have we learned today?
Oh, we learned that we are in favor of social media in the workplace, and we think that there is definitely an appropriate place for it. I don't think that means, sitting there and Facebooking everything at the desk, but I think there's definitely an appropriate spot for it.
I agree. And I've learned that if you want to if you want to keep your vitality and your thinking brain, you need to not retire until you're 93.
Right? And then you will be the envy of everybody in your nursing home.
I wonder if she gets a discount.
I thought that. I'm like, is that like free room and board? I mean,
What else have we learned?
I have also learned that while violence in the workplace from patients and family members is not a new thing, that at least our nation, I believe, is becoming much more aware of that issue and confronting it and coming up with plans to back up our nurses and our healthcare workers legally and also to protect us. And I'm very proud of that.
Very good. I've learned that if you want to have a relationship at work, a romantic relationship, that you need to shut up about it. I don't want to know.
Keep it on the DL. Keep it on the DL, peeps. You can get your roses at the desk and you can go, say hi to somebody for lunch, but don't sit there and go on and on and on. Show me pictures of your cat. I'm good with that.
Oh, I love pictures of cats.
Or kids. Kids are good too.
Well, kids go without saying, but
We're a big fan of kids, so bring that on. All right.
okay. All right. Well, it's been great. I love chatting with you.
Yeah, it's been fabulous.
And I just want to remind everybody that you can comment on this podcast at SoundCloud. You can go to YouTube and listen to it with a really cool graphic playing that I haven't made yet. But by the time
gonna
this
be
goes
amazing.
on, it's going to be great. So you can just look at our graphic while you're listening, or eventually we'll have this on iTunes. And you can make comments. You can ask questions at Twitter at StatSisters. You can visit our website, statsisters.com, and you can join us on Facebook, on our Facebook page, Stat Sisters. So we would love to see you there.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.